Guys, I Seven Deadly Sins, the show that was one of the most popular shonen at the time that experienced one of the worst downgrades in anime history. I guess you can call it Seven Deadly Frames. It's funny, guys. I don't like talking about a show that's quite old. Season 4 was like 2021 and season 1 was 2014, which is 10 years ago. Wait, 2014 was 10 years ago? And also because it's hard to do research. Before we talk about the absolute dog shit that was season 3 and 4, let's go back to season 1. Follow my Twitter. You're such a sellout. Seven Deadly Sins was an Aniplex and Netflix original series by A1 Pictures. Season 1 probably had the better end of the schedule compared to its future seasons. It was the most polished and consistent one. Of course, Taizai is not a full saga anime, so there is going to be limited cuts. There's nothing wrong with that. Series director Tensai Okamura, who has directed quite a bit of shows, mostly Bones and A1 projects. Also, he's going to be the director for the new My Hero movie, so that's cool. Art style wise, nothing very different. The design is nothing crazy, but Suzuki Sensei's manga design translates quite well in the anime. The fights were good too. Some can be limited while also being entertaining for their own accord, or can be very nice choreographed and storyboarded. Some of the animators that contributed a lot were two main animators, Takafumi Tori, who did a lot of cuts for the first season, someone who has always been involved in A1 projects. Too bad he wasn't involved in Aramanga Sensei. Either it was filling in the gaps with good cuts or phenomenal well choreographed fights. He's also the main animator for Solo Leveling right now. Hirotaka Tokuda, the other main animator, while not contributing a lot compared to Tori, maybe some of his cuts went under the radar. Mostly he did assist in animation directing, but he did animate probably one of the most iconic scene in the first season, which was Gil Thunder throwing his spear to Meliodas, but he also did stuff in Aramanga Sensei. I need to stop. Another animator who only did 2 sequences, but probably some of the most impressive cuts of the season, Takahiro Shikama, very impactful sequences, accompanied with some nice storyboarding work, definitely some of the highlights for the first season. Having main animators are important. They can make some of the most polished stuff in your show, or can just carry the whole show in his back. Example, if Kyokawa was not the main animator for Mushoku Tensei Season 2, he's not credited as the main animator, but he basically is, then that season wouldn't look as good, at least in the action scenes. Of course, anime is not a one-man show. There's a lot of other factors that make a show good looking, but if you don't have animators to bring that flair into the scenes, then it's not gonna look as impressive. While on the surface level, season 2 didn't look any different. Yes, not the OVA that Netflix labeled it season 2, which was, how do I say it lightly, retarded. I'll talk a bit about the OVA. Nothing really crazy happened. A good sequence by Tori, and the OP looks really nice. The ideas, colors, and Hirono Tanaka did a really good sequence also. You might ask, what was different about season 2? It's mostly about the staff. Of course, people like the character designer, compositing artist, and probably a few more was still the same, but the series director. Every single season, including the OVA and movie by A1, had different directors besides season 3 and 4. And the reason why some of the people that were involved in season 1 wasn't in season 2 was another show airing at the same time, being Record of the Grand Crest War. Judging from Sakuga board clips, it was probably the better looking show, consistency and animation wise. Most of the animators that was working on season 1 were working on this show rather than season 2. But season 2 had something good going for them. That was the rise of Webgen animators. Ryuta Yanagi, acting as the action director for season 2, really broadened his connections after working on SAO and Fate Apocrypha. Fate Apocrypha was one of the first projects that really relied a lot on young animators. Takeito Sakazume and Shun Inokido were action directors. We saw Hakugo's full capability helming an episode which looked so creamy, and a lot of other animators. Ryuta Yanagi, being involved in Fate Apocrypha, brought some of those young talent to Seven Deadly Sins, and some other people. Kai Shibata was probably one of the main animators, giving us some great looking sequences. Even late in the show, he still gave us some polished looking cuts. Kosuke Kato, who contributed the most animation wise with his Kanada timing and poses, really giving more flair into the fights, and did the best sequence in episode 19. You didn't know he was also the main animator for JJK season 2. Shotaka Shizono, the director for JJK Season 2, did some scenes but was really involved in episode 19 because of the demand for hand-drawn effects that the episode director wanted. Episode 19 was easily the best animated episode in Seven Deadly Sins. Storyboarding by Ryuta Yanagi made for some very dynamic and fast-paced action scenes while still having that impact thanks to some of the young talented animators that I mentioned before. But they were still restricted because some parties wanting to follow the manga panels one by one. At least we got to see what it could have been if they had more freedom Freedom, which was the second OP in season 2 by Ryuta Yanagi. It also had people like Taketsu Sakazume, Shun Inokido, Nozomu Abe, which is random. Not really, because he did a sequence in the SAO movie, where Ryuta Yanagi was the action director. After that episode, the quality dropped a bit in the last couple of episodes. There were inconsistencies, and the Escanor versus Estarossa fight was very limited, but it was still way better compared to the trash shit stain that was the Forest of Everglades.
To attract this swamp puppy.
Right now it's season 3. Season 3 was bad because it's mostly thanks to the movie. Noriyuki Abe was tasked to direct the movie. Fun fact, he is the director for the original Bleach and for the movies too. And he was also the chief director for Boruto. Well, in the Jurassic Park, I actually like the movie. I fucking love Seven Deadly Sins, so obviously I would like the movie. Yes, the plot and story is nothing to write home about. It's just a movie to enjoy. They also had creative freedom to do the fights, unlike episode 19. People like Takafumi Tori was back, and a lot of artists unknown for most of the good scenes. The movie being non-canon was not the main factor of it becoming a failure. There's a lot of examples of non-canon movies that did really good revenue-wise. Of course, if the movie is actually a canon movie, then people will watch it more, but it flopped. Not necessarily. Aniplex just overestimated about how much money that the movie will make. Then after the movie, Netflix asked Aniplex to do season 3, but the deadline they were given, which was October 2019, wasn't really feasible for them. From the start, Seven Deadly Sins was not really that profitable to begin with, so Aniplex thought it was a waste of resources. Then they built to focus on SAO and Fate Grand Order. That definitely made racks upon racks more than Taizai. I mean, come on, everyone wants to see Asuna's humongous rack. So the new committee had less than a year to find a studio for season 3. Most studios are booked years in advance, so it's quite hard finding one, but Studio Deen was willing to animate the project, which was fucking dumb to think about. Studio Deen already had a lot of shows contracted under their belt, so they just outsourced most of it, or just all of it, to Marvy Jack. Marvy Jack has mostly only helped doing second key animation or art backgrounds for shows, and definitely was not capable of producing a whole 24 episodes with a bad schedule. I think they also did season 4. The director or even most of the staff team are not at fault. It's not a display of their full potential. Season 3 and season 4 had a lot of hype around it. I only read the manga after season 3 because you know why. But I was heavily spoiled for season 3. Spoilers if you care. It was going to have Meliodas versus Escanor, Goldth's true identity, Elizabeth's real identity, Esterossa's true identity, most of the 7 deadly sins powering up a lot, especially Bond's post-purgatory, Escanor's death, and just a lot more. But we got this shit instead. I didn't finish season 4. Bro, I'm actually like scratching my balls right now. I didn't finish season 4, I dropped it halfway. I was really trying to finish it, but I couldn't. I did read the manga instead. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was a good ending most of it. Also, there was another Taizai movie that I didn't watch. Season 3 was awful. Consistent bad drawings, terrible art direction and compositing, and just overall awful. Especially those effects on Meliodas was garbage. I mean, it looked like they just glued a bunch of plastic on Meliodas, and they didn't even put a hint of purple in there. The schedule is bad, but there were no talent attached to this project, besides some. Excluding the OP, Shinobu Nishioka did quite a bit for season 3. He is a regular in A1 projects, recently being in Kaguya-sama and Mashal. Besides that, nothing else. Also, don't blame the studio about the censorship on the blood. They don't have control for that. I'm guessing the broadcast time was changed because the first 2 seasons was very bloody. The fights are so uneventful, especially Escanor vs Meliodas. I mean, nothing to even point out because it's dog shit. And also, don't compare this to the fan animation. Yes, it looked better, but both are produced differently. One is producing 24 episodes, and one is only focused on that particular scene, which was 30 seconds. Not to disregard the person who animated it. That's like me saying 7 Deadly Sins Grand Chase game commercials looked better than Deen's 7 Deadly Sins, which is true. It is 100 times better because you had young talented animators like Pebble, Yen Yen, and Burr Creek. Season 4, from what I remember, was still really bad. I mean, it is a teeny tiny bit better, I guess, than season 3, but it's still a no. I mean, the gap between when season 3 ended and season 4 started airing was not much. The interesting part about season 4 was Hironori Tanaka contributing a sequence. Nothing crazy for Tanaka standards, but you can see his detailed body anatomy and shading work. The worst part in season 4 is that no one besides Tanaka was credited in ANN. ANN being Anime News Network is basically a place where where you can see a more complete staff list than other sites like AniList, but AniList is better. Legit, no one besides Tanaka, the audio department, and studio/companies that did second key animation, but no particular individual was credited. In ANN, Season 3 had episode directors, storyboarders, animation directors, most of the things that is usually present for a staff list, but Season 4 had nothing. I mean, if ANN can't find those information, how the fuck do I even get any information for shit behind the scenes? It's just impossible. There was another movie by Studio Deen which looked meh for a movie, but Shu Sugita and Yu Yoshiyama was there, but it was a failure in revenue. Seven Deadly Sins was a case of a good, well-rounded shonen series that had a promising future, but got absolutely butchered because Aniplex don't understand anime, and a studio that picked up the project not caring about the series. Yes, the manga was not perfect, definitely a bit ropey at the end, but it was still a good ending nevertheless, in my opinion. There wasn't really much information about Season 3 and 4, but what can you do? There was that dogshit CG mess that I refuse to talk about, and the 7 Deadly Sins 4 Nights thing by Telecom, which looked average at best. So yeah, if you guys like this video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a like. Comment down below what are your thoughts about Nanatsu no Taizai. And yeah, hope you guys like this video. See you guys next time.